Hello, BookTube. I'm here with another video for Horror Mayhem. It was a month long, or is a month long. We're not out of May yet. A month long celebration of horror fiction. The idea was created by the Bookish Bryants, and it's to celebrate more the shorter short stories and shorter works of horror. 250 pages or less. However, the Bookish Bryants were not able to participate this year, so they've let the inmates, the co-hosts, run things, and there were specific prompts throughout the month, and then a bingo card of trying to get stories that have these certain elements in. I'll list it all down in the description. However, I didn't play by the rules this year. And that's one of the things that the Bookish Bryants are fine with, as long as to read horror. But also happening was Spring into Adventure, another group that I'm part of for a co-host. And it's to read adventure, fiction, nonfiction, anything to do with adventure. So I wanted to combine the both, and there were a number of us that combined both adventure and horror with Dan Simmons' 2007. I just wanted to make sure, yeah, 2007, The Terror. It's a bit of a beast of a book. In my edition here, it was 930 some pages. Yeah, 935 pages long. I think in the hardcover it was only 700 and some, and in some paperback editions it was still only 700 and some pages. But it's basically a fictional account of the 1845 ill-fated the polar expedition, Franklin. It's John Franklin's last attempt to find the Northwest Passage. Now, there's not a lot known about what happened to the fate. There was two ships, HMS Terror and HMS Erebus. And when this was written, the ships had not been found. They were found around 2014, 16, and 17. The Erebus first, and then, or HMS Erebus was found first, and then HMS Terror was found nearby. However, Dan Simmons takes this story, and he's done a lot of research. He knew who was on the ships, the number of people, what they left with, like the belongings, the food supplies, everything. And and also too, he has studied the archaeological record, because there's been excavations done of some of the bodies that were excavated, that were frozen, and as well as looking at the Inuit stories that have been passed down about the expedition and the people that were there. And also other archaeological, some of the, it is archaeological, but they'd found sort of skeletons at certain places that were not buried. And so Dan Simmons took all this information and worked this into the story. And sometimes they didn't know exactly who a skeleton was, but he's placed this sailor or officer as that person. And so he's worked this all into the story. So when he talks about maybe not how the person died, but where they died and what was with them, and the details, the surrounding details are all almost 100% accurate, which is amazing how he's weaved this into the story. So as I say, it's a story about the expedition, of them being stuck in the ice, and there is a terror, the terror that's stalking them, and it becomes a supernatural horror story, and it goes through. And I won't spoil and say what it is, but he uses all that evidence, all the historical evidence, the archaeological evidence, the anecdotal evidence of the Inuit, and he crafts this amazing story that, over hundreds and hundreds of pages, that he sustains the suspense, the eeriness, the loneliness, the cold of the Arctic. It's all there in this book, and you feel the terror at times of what these people would have gone through, even though he creates the story of what actually happened to them in the story. And maybe not, well, it's probably not happened in real life, but that doesn't matter. It's all just, it's a wonderful weaving of things together. And he talks about the sailors, and there's like 130 some sailors between the two ships. And I'm convinced, I didn't take tally, but I'm convinced by the time the book's done, he has named every person that was on that expedition in one form or another. It might have just been mentioned in passing, and some of them are main characters as well. Now, he doesn't know what these people did, the what they actually did and thought while they were there, because there's no real records of this. So at times, he doesn't do maybe the memory of some of these people a service, or he does a disservice to them, because he paints them sometimes in a bad light, and then others in a good light. So you have to take that, as a pinch of salt while you're reading this, and realize that these, even though he's giving these people the real names, this is not, well, it's most 100% not of what happened to them, or what they thought or what they did. How they ended up, maybe yes. How they died, yes. Or the details of their death. And that's the other thing. It's quite graphic in many ways. Dan Simmons has the I guess you would call it a talent for describing horrific scenes. And I don't mean horror in the other thing, but I mean that something's horrific. In detail of torture, or death scenes of operations, just very detailed, that you can picture it, and you can smell. It's all there, and you can smell like the blood that he's talking about as well. He is really good at that. Now, as I say, there is a supernatural element that he brings into the story, and that may or may not be for everyone. I liked it. I had a few qualms with things that sort of took you out of the story a little bit. But even though I liked these things, they just niggled with me a little bit throughout. That I thought, well, an otherwise very smooth, these are little bumps. But I accepted it with the whole story. And it is quite marvelous. And as I say, he was not aware of the archaeological evidence or what happened to the ships. Now, the other thing is, too, you notice it's called The Terror. Now, this is just something that's a side, but, you don't call the ship The Terror. It's Terror, or Erebus. Now, the terror is what's causing all this, the supernatural aspect. It's the terror of being there as well. It has a lot of sort of, you can place it in many layers of where the terror is. And, also too, harkening back, yes, to the name of the ship. Just so happens. But yeah, no, this was a great adventure book, and also a great book for horror, of horror. Even though it is a little bigger than the 250 pages, that was more or less what um, the 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 outlines of Horror Mayhem. But yeah, I definitely, because this is, I up until now I had only read the Hyperion Cantos by Dan Simmons, and I've wanted to read this, so it was a perfect opportunity. And some people, like, I poo poo this idea that books are intimidating. This is, like I say, this is, in this edition, it's 900 some pages, but it doesn't read like a 900. Like, it's just so, you don't want to put it down. There's books that I try to read that are 150 pages long that seem a chore, because you don't get into them as easily. And this you definitely do. It's not, it's very accessible. The only thing is that there is some graphic scenes, that obviously, and there is a supernatural element to it. So that's the only thing to keep in mind. But if you are interested in the writer, you're interested in polar exploration, Arctic exploration, the Franklin expedition, it's a fabulous story, and it keeps you going. And you do feel the isolation that they felt, while they were there. Even though it's a fictional story, but so much of it's not. See, it's hard to explain, but it's fictional, but there's so many elements that the backdrop and everything like that is all accurate. I would say 99.9% accurate. Like, it's not perfect, but it's 99.9% is accurate. And that's where I'll sort of end it there, because I'm sort of waffling now. But a great book of fiction. Thank you, BookTube.